Good morning from just outside of Missoula, Montana. This is the all-new 2025 Subaru Forester, and we are going to take it on an adventure today. We are driving from here in Montana all the way to our base back in Western Washington. Along the way, we are going to do a few adventures, so let's jump in and start this road trip. Oh, that's coming up right now on Driving Sports TV. It has been an absolute whirlwind few days. 2 days ago, I drove from Western Washington to Missoula, Montana in my new 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor. Did a whole video on it. It'll be out soon. And then I filmed this car, the all-new 2025 Subaru Forester. And now I am driving this Forester all the way back to Western Washington. We don't have it as a long term. I'm just bringing it back to film this video and a couple other things, and then we're handing it back to Fleet for other journalists to have access to it. So basically, we're doing the vehicle delivery for Subaru. And we also get a lot of extra seat time in it, which is great. Now, following me is Nick Myotke, my camera op. He is in my personal Ranger driving back. And I have to say, it's a little weird seeing my truck following me. Now, the route that we're taking today is going to go from Missoula all the way to Lewiston, Idaho, and that is on Highway 12. Now, this is a very twisty, mountainy road. It should be fun. I've never driven it, though, so this is going to be a first time for me. Maybe it'll be a first time for you as well. Once we get to Lewiston, we'll check the time, and maybe we'll go on to Yakima. And then just past Yakima, we have a lot of options for some, little off-road adventures with this vehicle. We can do dunes, we can do mountains, we can do both. But today, it's the Lewis and Clark Trail, otherwise known as Highway 12. Lewiston, Idaho, as you might guess, is actually named after the Lewis in the Lewis and Clark expedition. And if you live in the Northwest, you know all about Lewis and Clark, how they went out west and charted the area for the United States. Well, we are basically following their path, although we have it a lot easier because, of course, we have a lovely paved road, and of course, we have the all-new 2025 Subaru Forester. Now, a few things about this vehicle. The model we're testing is the fully loaded Touring. Leaving Missoula, I did fill up the gas tank, I did a double click, and I reset my trip. Now, one of the problems with testing mileage on a Subaru Forester is that this thing, it has over 500 miles of range. That's because it has an EPA highway rating of 33 mpgs, and it also has a fuel tank that's larger than 16 gallons. So, our entire trip is going to be close to 700 miles. Today, at least, we're definitely not going to need to fuel up. But we'll check at the end of the day. We'll see how many miles we get. Along the way, I can report the MPGs as calculated in the computer, and I do find these to be pretty accurate these days. Right now, it's only been about 15 miles since I left Missoula. Maybe I haven't been driving the most economically because I'm getting 23 miles to the gallon right now. But it is very early in this trip, so, I will report more numbers as I go. On the left there, you might be able to see it out the window. That's Lolo Peak. We're following the Lolo Creek, and this is going to be fun. The price on this fully loaded Touring model is $41,390 US, including destination. And that actually is, I think, a pretty good deal because you look at this vehicle, it has every option you can get in a Subaru, and it's actually priced under the average transaction price of a new vehicle in the US, which is currently around $47,000. It puts out 180 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. Now that is 2 more torques versus the older 2.5-liter 4-cylinder boxer engine. But Subaru does say that they've done a lot of changes to this motor, so they do consider it a new version of the 2.5. In addition to getting that extra torque, it also provides peak torque sooner. The old engine, I believe it peaked around 5,400 RPM. The new one peaks in the upper 3,000 RPMs, like around 3,600, 3,800, something like that. Will you notice that in everyday driving? Yeah, probably a little bit, but we're not talking about that much torque to really set the world on fire. I think one of the most important things with this new Forester is the seats. They've actually updated them to be the new design that's bolted directly to the floor. I'm still seated in the same kind of position. It's high, great visibility, and of course, because this is a Touring, it is leather with ultra suede inserts, which feel really nice, and they really plant me well in the seat. I also get up a lot of adjustments, including lumbar, and I can even program them into 2 memory settings. Plus, this also has facial detection, so right now it's actually detecting that I'm driving, and it basically presets everything for me, which is really nice, especially if you have multiple drivers in the same family. Yes, with a lot of vehicles, you can also do that with key registration, but I think it's just a little bit easier to do it with your face. Plus, you get some extra safety stuff. This has a new feature for detecting if the driver is incapacitated, and all the Subaru Foresters have that, but this one in particular will use extra data collected from the facial recognition system. I think the most significant change with this Forester, outside of the technology, outside of the looks, is the focus on driver comfort. It's quieter in the cabin, the suspension feels really nice, they reduce the amount of head movement you have with the way the seats are designed, and all of that basically makes it easier to do long drives. And I think that's really important. You know, if you're going to be doing interstate travel, you want to be comfortable. And of course, Subaru has their excellent eyesight system, which helps with adaptive cruise control, which is a very good system. That also, of course, provides collision mitigation should we ever need that. And on top of that, this also has blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alerts, all very good stuff. I also want to point out that this has the first surround view camera system in a Forester. With the little button down here, I can toggle between my different views, and you know, I have front views, I have tire views, I have back views, really good stuff. And if you're on a trail, it can double as a trail cam. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to test that a little bit later in this video. But with road trips, you kind of play it by ear. You know, we have this vision of what we're gonna do. How it all plays out, I have no idea. But so far, it's starting out great. The weather is nice, the road is mostly clear of other traffic, and we're driving through beautiful country here in southern Idaho. So the way we're going is actually the long way. If we wanted to drive more direct, that looked like a nice road. If we wanted to drive direct, we could absolutely just take I-90, but come on. Multi-lane highways, what's the fun in that? I saw Highway 12, I'm like, I've never driven that, let's do it. And so far, yeah, I'm loving this. This is a great drive. Okay, well, I think that we're just gonna keep on going here, and I will check back in with a mileage update in a little bit. So of course, one of the big issues with any long state drive on a single lane highway is getting behind a semi. It always happens. And even though the speed limit here is 60, I am currently tooling along at 50 and lower, which is okay. It's not bad, gives me an opportunity to look at the sights, but I am gonna be driving on this road for like 2.5 hours. Now, if we were doing this trip later in the season, there is a ridge road that we can actually follow along the Montana and Idaho border that I would have loved to have taken. But when I took the Ranger from Washington out here to Montana, I did try to go the reverse of that, and it turns out that there was a landslide blocking it, and even if I got past the landslide, it's still snowed in at the higher elevation, so no go. So we are doing the more normal adventure back, and that's actually okay because this is a Forester Touring. It's not a wilderness. This is really the Forester that is designed for daily driving, commuting, long distance trips, but it's really more about paved surfaces and then sometimes taking it onto a trail if you want to go hiking or something like that. But it's not really about going up those challenging trails where you would be better served with a wilderness edition of the Forester or another Subaru, or heck, even a Jeep or a 4Runner. So this is a touring trim, so it does have paddle shifters. If I want to, I can override at any time and it will emulate an 8-speed automatic transmission, but Deep inside, we really know this is a CVT. It's a continuously variable. There are no gears. But there are ratios, and the ratios have been revised in this vehicle to give better response and a little bit better driving dynamics. So if you haven't actually visited the West Coast at all, doing a drive like this is really quite good because you get a good feel for the varying topography and how this, I mean, like if you've been through the Appalachian Mountains, I mean, the Rockies and the Cascades, they'll blow your mind if you've never seen them. And you really, I think, owe it to yourself to get out here and check this out. Just like anybody who's on the West Coast should go check out the Appalachians. A mountain range that's that old and that, well, frankly, short, it's kind of weird to look at, especially when you're used to like mountains like what we have over here. Everything is more rugged here, a little bit more, remote. We have roads like this where we'll be hours in the mountains and probably not see another car. I really love it out here. I'm Pacific Northwest based, and I was born and raised up here. So this is my jam right here. All right, let's check in with MPGs. So I've now driven only about 37.6 miles, and the computer is saying that I'm doing 25.3 MPGs. I do expect that to increase over time. Now, the way to get the maximum MPGs with this car is to actually go with the smaller wheels, the bigger wheels, because they're heavier. They actually reduce MPGs just by a little bit. And that's not a Subaru thing, that's just a car thing. So it is kind of funny, like they're trying to get as many MPGs as possible, yet car makers keep putting bigger and bigger wheels on their vehicles. I don't know why. Come on, let's feel the power. Oh, we're climbing, man. I would like to complain that the Forester is really slow, but the fact is this whole category of vehicles is slow. They put efficient, powerful enough motors in these things. You're not going to blaze any trails at high speed with this setup. Most of the vehicles in this category, if you want a fast version, you have to get the hybrid or a plug-in electric hybrid version. And Subaru is working on one for the Forester. We should have a hybrid announced next year. I think it's coming out as a 2026 model year. And we don't really know anything about it, but I am looking forward to seeing it. I expect it'll probably share some tech with Toyota, since Toyota is a minority owner of Subaru. But I'm really excited because that might give the extra punch that this vehicle is currently lacking. But the fact is, this is a full-time all-wheel drive vehicle that gets 33 miles to the gallon on the highway, or at least that's what they claim when you're not climbing up mountains and full throttling it. They need that extra boost, and I'm looking forward to see what they do with that hybrid. There also will, of course, be a wilderness version of this that also we probably won't hear anything about until next year or a little bit thereafter. Oh, look, welcome to Idaho, just as I expected, up at the peak. We're also changing time zones, so now we're in Pacific time zone. Yay. And now we're going down. This vehicle is really quiet. Like, it is really quiet and comfortable. There's a little wind noise over here, but it's not too bad. And it only seems to become really audible at speeds over 70. Here at 60, man, this thing is it's great. The nice thing is that going up to a mountain pass, yeah, you lose your MPGs, but going back down, it's basically gravity. Oh, and we also have brakes, and the brakes actually feel really good on this thing. But I've never really had an issue with Subaru brakes, so it's kind of more of the same there for me. I do like the new steering rack. This is borrowed from the WRX. It's a new dual pinion design, and the turn-in feel is so much nicer than the old Forester. It's like it handles much better. You can feel what's going on with the road, but you have a really nice turn-in. Man, this is really spectacular. It just has such a raw, natural element to it. Like, typically, you go through I-90, and it has been built and rebuilt so many times. They've smoothed out all the corners. They've gotten rid of basically any of the raw naturalness of it. I know naturalness isn't really a word, but work with me here. So the river that we're now following is called the Crooked Fork. It's right there. So while we're doing this road trip, Nick and I are switching cars out a few times to do rolling shots, basically car-to-car footage, so you can get those really sweet exterior shots of the vehicle, because you don't want to see me talking the whole time, right? So this was kind of cool. I switched cars with Nick. I drove the Raptor for a little bit, and he was driving the Forester, and we had a camera attached to the Forester because I needed to get some extra shots of the Raptor. And as soon as I got back into the car after we had finished filming, it identified my face and repositioned everything for me. Didn't have to restart the car, didn't have to do anything. I just got in, it said, "Hi Ryan," and boom, everything was adjusted. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that it would be so proactive. Like I thought, oh, maybe it's when you start up the car or something. No, like if I switch with somebody else driving, boom, instantly puts it into my positions. Love that. So that is actually a really nice feature that is exclusive to the Touring trim. And just to give an update here, I've now been driving 80 miles, still very comfortable. Of course, I did switch in the Raptor a little bit. And I also have to say something about mileage. Because we are filming on this whole drive, it's really going to affect the mileage. So our mileage numbers are going to be much lower than somebody else might get, because we do these things called like run-ups and passes and stuff while we're doing car to car, and you're full throttle, especially in this car because it's pretty slow. And so obviously wide open throttle is going to be the worst MPG you can get. Still, we are averaging around 26.9 so far, which isn't awful. I mean, the Raptor's getting probably about 15.8. I think that's what we got on the way out. So clearly, it could be worse. Of course, the Raptor has 405 horsepower. Still liking this car, though. I mean, since I just drove the Raptor for a little bit, I got back into the seats, and the Raptor seats are so good. But keep in mind, the Raptor is $57,000 and change, so it better be good. But those seats, actually, the Raptor just fit me perfect. This one's a little bit looser on the width, but it's not a sports car. It doesn't need to cradle me as much as, you know, a Baja truck. But in terms of just being comfortable driving out in this beautiful country, I mean, yeah, Forester's doing great. Now, I want to talk about the exterior of this vehicle because it's a little controversial. The most common comment I get is that it looks like a Ford Explorer, albeit a much smaller one. And I'm not going to argue that point against that. I mean, it's, yeah, I can see that. And it is a new design direction for Subaru. But I don't think it's awful. I think it's actually okay looking. I think the front's it's a little fussy. It's a lot of plastic up front there. I do like how they have the haunches over the wheel wells. I think that looks nice. The plastic cladding, like straight off a WRX of all things, okay. Well, that side vent up in the front wheel, that's actually functional. It helps with airflow at high speeds, so okay, sure. The little side cladding on the bottom, give or take it. One kind of, I guess, thing that Subaru is doing is, depending on the trim you get, it'll have a different accent color in the cladding. Okay, that's kind of fun. I get that. But the good news is that if you don't like the style of this one, you can still buy a brand new Forester in the guise of the Forester Wilderness, which I think the biggest step down from this 6th generation Forester to the Wilderness, which is based on the 5th generation for another year until they update this one for the Wilderness model, is the fact that it is a little bit louder. The steering isn't quite as precise as this one, and it's a little bit louder in the cabin. Also, you don't get this large tablet display, which I have to say, when doing interstate travel, I do like having a really large map, and this provides that because it has that full screen functionality through CarPlay. So that's a good thing too. But would I get one versus the other? Yeah, if I was buying a Forester right now, I'd probably look at the Sport. I think that's a nice balance of handling, features, and price. Probably with an option pack just to give some extra bonus goodies on that one. Right, so we'll check back in once we get some more miles racked up here, and we'll see how it does. It still says I have a range of like 350 miles still. Wow, so much range in this thing. We've now been on the road for several hours, finally made it out of the mountains. And now I'm down near where am I? I'm on the Nez Perce Reservation and heading towards Lewiston. At this point, the rugged mountains around us and the raging rivers have given way to a slow, large river and rolling hills and grass. It's actually quite beautiful here. So at this point, we are still in Idaho. We are heading across the southern part of Idaho towards southeast Washington State. In fact, now we're in Lewis County. Yes, everything around here is named for Lewis and Clark. Like back there was a Lewis and Clark hotel. I mean, you cannot avoid it. According to the gauge cluster, I've averaged 29 miles to the gallon, and that is slowly gaining. Because, I mean, earlier today we did a lot of filming, which meant a lot of wide open throttle acceleration, trying to get up to speed for each shot as we're passing. That obviously affects overall MPGs quite negatively. I've now driven 206 miles, and I'm still feeling pretty good. The seat's comfortable. I could drive for several more hours, but I'm hungry. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull off. Nick's gonna join me with the Raptor. We're gonna get some food, and I think we're gonna call it a night. And we're gonna pick up tomorrow morning at the dunes. So day one was a really great drive. Went almost 300 miles in this new 2025 Subaru Forester Touring. And there were some things I loved, there were some things that I didn't love. First off, the comfort. This thing is very comfortable to drive long distances. Second, the economy. Yes, I only got a peak 29 MPGs, whereas the EPA rates it at 33, but given the way I was driving, I can absolutely see this getting up to 33 MPGs. But it's not perfect. There are a few things that I experienced yesterday that are kind of annoying. The infotainment system, even though it's been rock solid in the 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Wilderness that we've been testing long term, in this vehicle I did get a few lockups with Apple Wireless CarPlay, which were kind of annoying. It would reconnect eventually, and at least once I had to plug in to get that to work properly. Also, even though it's really cool how when you get into this vehicle, it'll identify you and set up all your preferences, it's also watching to make sure that you keep your eyes on the road and also that your hands are on the wheel, and I found it to be a little bit more obtrusive than I really wanted. There were several times where I was driving and looking forward, maybe my hand was up here or I was doing this or something like that, and it would say eyes on the road with big alerts. One time it even told me to go take a break, even though I was driving perfectly straight down the middle of the road with adaptive cruise control on and lane centering. So I don't quite get that. There's actually one more thing too that I have to mention, and that's power. This thing is very slow getting up to speed on the freeway and doing passes, especially if you have a couple trucks on a 2-lane road and you have a very short passing zone. It's just not fun. But there is a hybrid coming. Hopefully that will solve that problem. And the Forester has never been fast. So it's still not fast. Congratulations, it's a Forester just like all the other Foresters. And just like other Subarus, I expect we can have some off-road fun with this thing. So we are here at the Beverly Dunes in Washington State to see how much fun we can have. And I do want to point out that on my previous road trip video, I did drive my Ranger Raptor out here. And of course the Raptor, it's built for dunes like this. So how does this little Subaru do? Let's find out. Of course, it's really important that when you're on the dunes that you install a whip flag like this. Just use a couple suctions, easy peasy, do it. Let's see what this thing can do. Now, of course, it is equipped with symmetrical all-wheel drive, and yes, of course, it has all-season tires on it. It does not have all-terrains. It does not have sand tires. It's just regular street tires. Now, we have the advantage of the fact that it actually rained here yesterday, so the sand is a little grippier than what we might normally get. So if you were to say, oh, I'm just going to go out there and do the same thing, always be wary of conditions. Now, so far, woohoo! We're doing great here. Now, a few things on dune running. Etiquette is always use a whip flag. Also, don't jump over a dune that you do not know where it goes to. Keep your eyes open, be aware. and be proactive. Basically, if a dune doesn't look right, go around to the other side and see if it looks better from the other angle or if that was a death drop. Because sometimes it's a death drop. Oh. Also, we're going to get banks and slides that are way more extreme than what you'll see on the street. So make sure you don't hit a bank that's going to flip you over, because that's no fun. This is great. Down here we have a more compact surface. Dude, symmetrical all-wheel drive. Don't even have to go into X mode. But X mode will be good if we start to get stuck. That'll help be more aggressive at shifting that power left to right. Woohoo! Up and over. Okay, now where's this dune go? I don't know. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's a bit of a drop. Let's stay on the... Oh, look, there's water down there. Don't go there. And sideways, yes! Yeah, I'm getting, you can all of a sudden go from no grip to some grip sideways as the surface changes, and you can roll out here. It is quite possible, so you gotta be careful. Whoo, but it is fun. Where else can you just hang it out? Like this, yes. It's great actually for driving practice. You know, it basically slows things down a little bit. You don't have to be like, yeah, on the street, if you're sliding sideways, if you get even the slightest amount of grip, it's just gonna fling you the other way. Whereas here, everything's more gradual, so it slows down those inputs and gives you a little bit more practice with the slidey stuff. And even with only 180 horsepower, this car is really fun and plenty fast for these conditions, yes. You know, off-roading, you just don't need a lot of power. Is it good? Yes. Do I want more of it? Yes. Is it required? No. Do I prefer doing this with my Raptor? Yeah, I think you know the answer to that. Whoop, yumps. We don't have a skid plate, so let's not get too crazy here with those. Okay. Is this the first Forester Touring to ever hit the dunes? Quite possibly. Hit the narrow stuff. How are we going to do here? Let's put a wheel up there. Let's go a little sideways action. Yeah. Now this, of course, also has 19-inch wheels, which are a little big for this kind of stuff. I prefer more tire. And no, I have not even bothered to air down yet. Because we have that moisture, it gives more grip. So I don't really have to today, I don't think. Unless we get stuck, in which case, sure, I'll air down. Woohoo! Oh man, this is so much fun. And so far, I've just been keeping VDC on. That's the dynamics control system. Now let's see what we can do with it off. Oh, yes, boom. Oh, there's still, of course, there's still that traction control kicking in. It doesn't want to completely give it up, but it does allow for a lot more fun. And actually, it's a little harder to get through the sand without that brake vectoring happening. Hit it, boom. I don't know why people bring their like $70,000 Can-Ams out here. Just buy Forester. Okay, can't totally disable traction control on this thing. Fine. Of course, I also brought my Raptor out here earlier and we're using it to film today, so yeah, I took it for a few spins. So you can see how this vehicle compares to a Raptor, but this is not a shootout. It isn't. Okay, well, we've had a lot of fun here at the dunes. I think it's time to hit the road and get back to Seattle. Woo-hoo. Right, well, let's do a 0 to 60. I got Nick standing in the middle of the road. Let's see how this does at, we're only about 2,000 feet, but that's, much better than 4,000 feet. Complete stop. Timer set to go in 3, 2, 1, drop it. 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. 9.69 seconds. So we're looking about a little more than 9.5. Not great, but it's a workable number. If only you were faster, Forester. If only you were faster. And with that, we've done pretty much all the testing we want to do on this trip. We've had fun in the canyons, we've had fun in the sand. Now it's time to go have some fun sitting in traffic. But we're not done yet with this vehicle. Next up, we're going to take it to our Peninsula Proving Grounds and see how well the all-wheel drive system handles tricky situations. That's coming up. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share videos. Make them for you. Hope you enjoy. We'll see you again real soon.